Get in, losers. We're going speculating.
Chapter 30, Fourth House Skull. 4 months before the Emperor's murder. Excessive wine consumption. Deus Apate Minor. Chapter 31, Second House Skull. Harrow tries to kill the Saint of Duty, but the body formerly known as Cytherea gets there first.
Well, Marie, I think we should seriously consider lobotomizing Brooke and John. I think this would really improve.
I don't know. John does a great job of completely and totally, like, taking them...
catching some genius things, incredible pulls, and then just, like, off into the distance. It's a great combo. And actually, let's go through their stuff a little bit here. John made the incredible pull. He thinks that the sword is made of heralds, which I like as a concept. It is driving her insane. Not relevant, but it's cute. It was a detail from this week. But also said that Harrow has the sleeper sword, and the sleeper is Commander Wake. Picks up on that wordplay. Ding, 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 ding.
I know. It made me so mad. Like, on, like, because it was definitely on a reread when I caught but what do we do if the sleeper wakes? I was like, fuck
you were like,
Tamsin.
you god damn it. My favorite thing that they have going on is their longtime debate about who are Gideon's birth parents. So the current favorites are
Pyrrha and God.
And God. Fascinating. Total. Like, where the fuck is he getting Pyrrha in this? I love it, but it's
because she's a stone cold fox.
She is a
John
stone cold fox.
obviously had a crush on her.
She also seriously dead for 10,000 years. Like,
yeah.
And then Brooke. Really great pull this week from Brooke. Goes into details actually in the show notes. So those of you on Patreon will be able to see it about how Augustine talks about almost losing Ortis to Commander Wake. There's like lots of instances. So she thinks there was a romantic relationship between Ortis the First, aka Giddy One, and Commander Wake. Completely correct. Huge thumbs up. And also not Gideon's birth parents. One of two. So we'll give it that.
But that's why he's like, just tell me, what did you do with the baby?
Yeah, exactly. She was perfect on that. It was interesting. I like cannot believe I didn't catch that. Reading this on a reread, that statement is so like aggressively, oh, it's cut off halfway through. It's clearly, what did you do with the baby? Like, it's so obvious. Did not catch it in real time.
I don't know. No, I don't think I did. There's no way I
think I just wasn't thinking about Gideon's birth. I was like, Gideon, she dead. Like, I was like, this is a story about Harrow. Who gives a shit about Gideon?
Yeah, you're all like, where's Gideon? Where's Gideon? Where's Gideon?
Actually, I think one of the most interesting things was something that John said, not during Rampant Speculation, but during our like run through of the plot, asked whether it was Pyrrha talking through Giddy One's body. Which it is, and I think we should get into at some point. But I was like, that was a good insight. The last couple of things that I want to mention from theirs. So, one, John mentioned that the body doesn't talk to Harrow until she becomes a lictor, which is sort of true. The body talks to Harrow for a while and then stops talking to her when she reaches puberty.
And we had a long rant about this early on in the season.
So maybe let's not revisit this here. We'll think about it later. But John was saying that potentially Harrow is being haunted by the body who's being either haunted or possessed by Gideon. Sorry.
Nah, Gideon's just behind there being like, let me out.
And then I did appreciate that, you know, they think that Canaan House is in the river, but they're not sure what that means. They're not sure if it's still just her mind filling in the gaps.
I'm so curious to see, like, what they do when they meet Pal. What they do with the river.
I'm so excited. I'm going to tell you right now, I am literally, so after this, I'm going to call Josh to get Rob's phone number because I'm going to make it so that Rob bursts in during our recording into Brooke's studio and hands her champagne or something because she called that Powell was alive and I think it was so good.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing they did say, and I loved, was this idea that those thousands of dead souls that are going to repopulate the Ninth need to be brought to the surface. So like their bodies are there, but their souls are in the river. Yeah. That's good shit. That's what I've got from what they said. I have a bunch of things I want to talk about. Do you have things you want to talk about?
The only kind of callback, because there wasn't really anything where I caught that Gideon was like kind of saying anything to Harrow in this. Shut the fuck up.
What?
John just texted us and said, shut the fuck up. What could he have read so quickly?
There's no way.
Would have. He already sees Camilla Hecht. Oh, not spoiling, but I see why the outro was the way it was.
Well, I guess we'll see if any of that happens next time when John and Brooke meet some old friends.
Well, it's only 5 pages in.
Okay, all right.
So he could have be like, shut the fuck up. He's already met Camilla. Okay, cool.
Fabulous. This is still okay.
Side note, I am absolutely delaying my drive back to Boston to read these chapters.
That's very fucking funny. He doesn't even know. He's going to meet Camilla, but he doesn't know he's about to meet Camilla, Corona, Judith, and Calamities. Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
Holy cow. Okay. You don't really see Gideon peeking through. I feel like there was a funny reference that it said, like, one of the first toasts was to absent friends. And Harrow says, you sipped. You didn't have any absent friends.
Oh, that's just sad. But that's a lovely catch. I like that. Everybody actually like drinks very deliberately and explicitly at some toasts and not others. It's like pretty obvious actually. So for
like
example,
who feels what?
Yeah, one of the things that I think is really interesting is they didn't talk at all about Ortis, aka Giddy One, is uncomfortable at the party anyway, but really doesn't like when people talk about Pyrrha, and then really did not like when they talked about Commander Wake and got up and left. And that is indicative of what Giddy One is.
But that's how they got him to leave.
Yes. Oh, they did it on purpose for sure. They were like, let's bring up topics that will make him increasingly uncomfortable until we can fucking get him out of the room. 100%.
Was Mercy's thing with the commander or with BOE teaching them how to make the like lictor or god-killing weapons by making herald bullets? Because her end game always has been killing God.
I could see that.
She and Augustine had a plan, and they were like, oh, I guess we had to do it now. Too bad we couldn't evacuate them.
Yes, they always had a plan to kill Jod, and the preference would have been to have, as you said, evacuated the 9 houses before Jod dies, but they always intended to kill Jod. And I think you're right. I have a question here, too. We know that BOE found out about the Resurrection Beast about a quarter century ago. And we definitely know that they were in contact at that time, because when that fails, when they aren't able to kill him with god-killing bullets made out of heralds, that's when you start looking into the locked tomb. Maybe that's when you start thinking about incubating a baby. So I think this was definitely Mercy who told them about it. And I think I would be interested to know, someday maybe we'll get some short stories about what Augustine and Mercy's interactions were with BOE, because I don't know how involved each of them was with any given part.
She must have known when she tried to kill him at the end of the book that it wasn't going to work.
I think they seemed like they absolutely thought they had finished it. That like he explodes into component atoms and she collapses into like Augustine's arms of all people and basically is like, it is done. At least we'll go watch them die. We weren't able to get it out, but it had to be done now. I think she thought she had done it. I think everyone thought that she had done it. And I think that part of that is because Jod does not show all of his power. I think Jod actually really hides a lot of what he can do. I do not think that the lictors are aware of the depth and breadth of his power.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Does she think she can actually do it without having opened the tomb?
Yeah.
Or does she think that the tomb was opened and so they did do it?
Oh, that's interesting. That this was just that second step.
She can finally pull the trigger, and it has been done.
And it's because she now knows that the tomb was actually open, because they find out that Gideon number 2 actually existed and was on the 9th, which tells them that potentially the locked tomb was breached. I don't know. I could go either way. It's tough for me to say. The other thing that is relevant is that maybe it's enough to like diminish his power so sufficiently by exploding him into component atoms that it doesn't matter very much if his total self is dead, or you could like go back afterwards and kill the soul or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. So weird.
I have some funny details and Easter eggs. So Brooke brought up one of them. That's a very weenie construct callback. I love that. I think it's interesting. This is the first instance of the full name John Gaius coming up. My favorite, however, is that chapter 30 has a fourth house skull. And the reason it has a fourth house skull is because Ulysses, who was a lictor of the fourth house, was the one who liked to throw orgies, sexy parties. And that is exactly what this is. Too funny. There's some things about Christabel and Alfred, most of which we talked about, I think, in the episode. I really like Augustine's characterization of them. Chris as a fanatic and an idiot. Alfred as someone who wanted to believe that hard. And actually, in contrast to what Brooke was hoping for, because she doesn't know everything, Augustine wishes he could have talked Alfred down, talked Alfred out of believing, talked Alfred out of giving a shit about the lictor process, which I think is, upsetting. Mercy says that Augustine hated Chris even before. And I don't know if that's just vibes or if there were specifics there.
I am sure that there are specifics.
That we will
because I'm sure Mercy and Augustine hated each other before.
Oh, absolutely. Their personalities are whatever horror clash. They also just, over the course of 10,000 years, you just solidify, right? Like, I feel like you start out with a little bit of wiggle room, and by the end, you're just like, I don't care. I am who I am. Augustine has this threat to wrench out Chris's soul and eat it, which I think is a genuinely interesting threat in a lictory world. Don't know if this is a possibility, but it opens up a lot of thoughts. Here's my weird one. Augustine has a very weird statement to Mercy out in the hallway where he's like, how was I supposed to know the incinerator alarm would go off? It's always the ones you don't turn off, right? He says that.
It's like, oh, okay.
I have no idea what to take away from this, but it almost sounds like they had deliberately turned off the alarms in advance of this. And what the fuck? Like, why would you think alarms would have gone off? I have no fucking idea what to take away from this.
Well, because they didn't want alarms going off to distract, like, to basically have happen what happened, which is they go, oh no, alarms are going off, and Jod goes running.
Right, but so why would they
Because they didn't know how Harrow was going to try and accomplish what she was going to do. So they didn't know if what she was going to do was going to have alarms go off.
Sets off something.
So they had to turn off all of the alarms in the station.
Covering their bases.
Just being an abundance of,
Okay, so this also goes into one of my other, what the fuck questions. Tamsin makes a very clear point about, why would the Mithraeum even have an incinerator?
Because they recycle everything.
It's a very fucking weird question. I don't know.
Just in case, you build for permanence. Just in case you want to permanently get rid of something,
Yeah. Gideon and Pyrrha. So I just want to show some examples of moments when you can see the shift. So Gideon's eyes are bright green. In the incinerator, his eyes look very dark, and Harrow senses no bloom of necromancy, and he makes no move to save himself. So that's Pyrrha.
And he's not healing.
So then,
slowly.
Once Harrow drags him out, his eyes stay closed the entire time he's talking to her. And they switch back to green when Jod shows up. And that's when Gideon is now I can't remember. I lose time. So he has very, very different speech patterns, which is something that John picked up when he's Pyrrha. Pyrrha will speak in more than 2 words at a time. Gideon never maxes out at 2 words.
Yep.
No, 4 words. Number 7 is at the rim. Okay, 5. 5 words is the most we've ever seen him speak in a row, and it was about the end of the world for them. So, and then of course, as Brooke pointed out, you'll be safe from us. So, as you just pointed out, during this time when it's clearly Pyrrha, the wounds are closing, but slowly, far more slowly than you would have expected. And what's weird about this is it actually reminds me of Harrow. Harrow doesn't have this auto wound healing. She has to do it herself intentionally. She has the power, but she has to choose to do this. And it made me realize, I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure that when the lictors are in the river and their cavaliers are keeping the lights on, that their wounds heal automatically. I don't know if we know whether or not they heal slowly like this or whether they heal at normal lictor speeds. But there's something, again, weird about the Pyrrha-ness of it all.
They heal at normal lictor speeds because Gideon is totally freaked out at the fact that the thumb gets bit off and then immediately regrows.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. That was beautiful. Okay, so again, Pyrrha is this weird... It's almost like when Pyrrha is in the body, she's got half a lictor energy, although I don't think she has full necromancy. I have 2 more... just confusion comments. It's a whole category of my life is just confusion. Jod can no longer detect Cytherea's body anywhere on the station. So I think it's so crazy that Jod who has superpowers, doesn't know where Kith's body is. Later, Kithraea's body will be under Harrow's bed. And so there's this part of me that's like, maybe Harrow's wards are so fucking poppin' that no one can detect anything in that room? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Or I have no other answer. I have no fucking idea what's going on here. I think it's an interesting note.
Or John's lying?
Also,
but he wouldn't
also
be
possible.
lying.
He also wouldn't admit if he didn't understand what was happening. I don't understand any of
Or
this.
if he was only sensing, he thought that he was sensing something about the body and he was only sensing Wake, and he doesn't sense Wake anymore, and so he doesn't understand that he doesn't sense the body.
Right. I could see that. Or, you know, also if the body is like in Harrow's chambers and there's a little bit of Wake in Harrow anyway, which we know there is, maybe it just confounds it. It's just like, oh, that vibe is in that space, but it's clearly just Harrow. It's just what I feel from Harrow normally. The other thing that's wild is the body statement at the end, and I have no fucking idea what to take with that. You know what it's giving? It's exactly like that moment when Harrow and Ianthe are walking down the hallway. Harrow stops Ianthe and is like, do you detect movement from within the crypt? And Ianthe's like, do you try to sound as ominous as possible? So the body being like, the water is risen, the sun is also, we will endure.
I know. I was like, what do you mean the water has risen? What do you mean the water has risen? What water? Where's the sun? What? Bitch?
No, I've got nothing. This is like, it is completely like word salad, just absolutely nothing. Chapter 32, 8th House Skull, 2 months before the Emperor's murder. Mercy leaves you to kill a planet. The birds sing. You almost feel good.
Chapter 33, 6th House Skull. Kamala Hecht is following you. Calamity's fractured bones, a bubble in the river.
Chapter 34, 2nd House Skull. You encounter Coronabeth and Judith. Judith tries to warn God. We're not on the same side anymore.
First, page 297. The total absence of appropriate shame made you suspect that this had happened between them before, a thought that made you want to give yourself a lobotomy.
I know. That is the greatest fucking call of all time, and I look forward to telling them about it in 2 episodes. Go ahead.
Next page, 298. The smut made your hair start to curl thickly about your neck. It very badly wanted cutting now.
Wah, wah. Thanks, Ianthe.
I loved that when she sees Pal again, he gets described the same way that he got described in Gideon, slightly differently. His face was homely. He looked somewhat like a beak, a chin, and a jaw put together as a joke. And I was like, Tamsin, come on, man.
So
awful. Always love that line. You never could have guessed that he had seen me. When I read that, and I was so fucking hopeful, and then it still takes like 5 chapters to see Gideon again, and you start to doubt again, and you're like, wait, what? It's going to be so funny.
Yeah. In the same vein of, you know, usually you have moments when Gideon is breaking through. And I actually really appreciated, I wanted to say that John caught this in retrospect, which I really liked. That he was like, wait a second, Harrow wouldn't make sex jokes. Like, it was good.
Yeah. And it's going to be so fun to be like, okay, here's the list. Let's see if we can start talking about what they just said. I was about to say second champagne party for Brooke, because immediately off the bat, she said, the portrait is Commander Wake, who is Gideon's mom.
I know. She pulled that out immediately.
What the actual fuck, Brooke? But also, she is not on board that
with
Gideon's
dad
is God. So I'm like, okay, joint champagne party, because neither one of them are willing to combine, which is fair, because how? Why? The fuck? So
I was already planning on whiskey party for John because, similarly to Brooke, he called that Gideon's dad was Jod literally before the season started. It's fucking incredible. Yeah. Like they both have been doing a good job about this back and forth. I loved that Brooke called that Wake is Gideon's mom. I think it's really funny that they're obsessed with Pyrrha having red hair, which I'm not sure is mentioned at any point. I'm not sure she has red hair.
No, I think her name is Pyrrha.
Exactly. It just cracks me up.
Towards the very end of that conversation, though, as long as we're still on this, I think it was Brooke that said, and maybe it was John, I don't remember who said it, but they were both agreeing that Ortis and Pyrrha might be switching and that it was Pyrrha that told Harrow how to defend.
This is even the fact that they, I mean, Brooke characterized it as multiple personality disorder, which, the asterisk is not a thing. We can go into details about DID at some point if we want. But I really fucking love, that's not something obvious, actually, that there are multiple personalities there, but they clocked that. I think that was a really good call on their part.
I think the thing that I just think is the funniest is it's like, if they could pull all the pieces together, they would be there. Because John is like, Gideon is the child of God. The sleeper is Commander Wake. And Brooke is like, Commander Wake is Gideon's mom.
They literally have the entire thing. Except they don't.
Yep.
It's pretty good. I also actually liked it. So one of the things that Brooke said in order to give evidence to Wake is Gideon's mom was that the commander was kicked out an airlock and that then this person falls down on Pluto. And I was like, yes, dead on. That's exactly what happened.
The throwaway line that John said that I copied down word for word because I was like, the fuck? He said, the piece of Harrow's mind that they chucked in the river to do the work.
Sorry, I'm very, very excited about this. Next episode, at the I can't remember which chapter it is, but at the end of one of the chapters for next episode is a moment when God brushes the hair out of Harrow's face and goes, Harrow, who's been messing with your temporal lobe? And I think they're gonna fucking lose their shit.
Last thing that I have to say about what they're talking about before I kind of go into my rampant speculation that kind of leaps off of theirs is that I love that John's rampant speculation has so many correct pieces but in the wrong place. It's like one of those ridiculous 1,000-piece puzzles that's maybe it's all one color. He has all of the right pieces. None of them are in the right place. He is right about that they were trying to figure out the lictor process because they wanted what happened to AL. Yes. They wanted that BOE as a natural response to what the houses are doing. Yes. The reasons why those things happened or the order that they happened in or what is actually going on, no.
Hearing him talk about it was an AI garbled version.
He keeps saying about nuclear war and the ice caps melting and the water rising or whatever. John, Jod, says something like that in the next couple of chapters, and he's going to
literally in the next episode,
and he's going to go even crazier into the rampant speculation, and it's going to be so funny.
We're going to have to buy his wife some sort of straitjacket for him. I'm concerned. Just, you know what it is? And that is literally just to keep his hands away from his keyboard. We might just have to take away his keyboard.
We might.
Even with its flashing lights. Okay. They brought up a number of things that I think were rampant speculation that we don't know enough about that I think are really interesting. So one of them is this idea about the river. Is the river constructed? This idea of barriers to the river. And then one of the things they said is the river the afterlife or the way to the afterlife? And it made me think about it because rivers show up in a lot of afterlife mythology, but they are always something you cross.
Right. And that's what Abigail thinks.
I know. I'm so fascinated about the stoma. The interesting thing is what is beyond. That's why Ianthe is interested in liminal spaces too. The river is a liminal space. It's not the final location.
And that's what John keeps saying. I also quoted this word for word, is that the river ain't flowing the way it should be. Yeah.
And I really like his idea that potentially necromancy, the advent of necromancy, actually disrupted the normal flow of death, and that part of that the world is decaying in some way because death is wrong.
Before they started going there, I was thinking about this thing about the love of Jod that all of the lictors have, and where that comes from, this fanatical love, because I think maybe it came from talking about Harrow's faith and her love for Jod. And so I already had kind of a little star there that I was oh, that's something I kind of wanted to maybe possibly bring up in this. And then I connected it again because we've talked about this before, but they brought it up again in their rampant speculation about how the Canaan house is lying to them on a molecular level. And then they said, when you're in the river, time is different.
I think that the situation with time is completely fascinating. They actually brought up several things that are relevant to this. You're absolutely right. This idea of being lied to on a molecular level is beyond fascinating. And you know that I've been obsessed with Canaan House and what Canaan House actually is, and that whole section where Pal and Cam are like trying to date things.
Are we on the same page that we think that Jod made bubbles and that he put some of Canaan House in the river and that's why
In the
it's
bubble.
lying?
Yes.
Lying to them on a molecular level?
Yes. And so I think you're right. Time goes differently in the river. I actually think there's something really fucking interesting. So one of the things that Brooke said is, how did Cam and Pal's bones and Judith and Corona get 40 billion light years away without going through the river? And I think the answer is the Steely, but we don't know enough about how the Steely works. And she also noted that they say Pal's bones are 6 months old. So you're right that this could be a throwaway. This is like Harrow approximating. This also could be a throwaway where like Tamsin got it wrong. But if it is correct, it made me actually wonder about relativistic time travel. That like, is there some way in which some portion of the time travel that BOE does actually conforms to relativism, in which case it is experiencing less time than what Harrow has experienced.
Oh, in which case it is a clue and it's not a mistake.
Yeah, which would be interesting. So then you have multiple kinds of time at play. And they're right, time comes up over and over and will come up in the next episode as well. So like time in the river is different and wrong. I love that Brooke came up with the same thing that I have been thinking about, right? What is the context where BOE went and picked up Corona and Cam and Judith? Did they interact with Harrow and Ianthe, or did they just avoid them? I think it's actually really interesting. And this actually, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about was who knows what. So for instance, Harrow writes a letter about Judith, and that implies that she knew that Judith would still be alive and would not be trustable, that you understood that Judith would be on the wrong side and that Judith would be alive. And this is interesting because the last time we saw Judith in Gideon the Ninth, actually, she was presumed dead. She was left and was about to die, and then they go off and do a whole bunch of fighting Cytherea. This means that they had some time to rescue Judith, to stabilize her, to interface with her in some meaningful way, and I think it increases the likelihood that Harrow actually encountered and interfaced with BOE and knew that Judith was going to be basically a prisoner of war. So this brings back a big question for me of whether or not Ianthe knows all of this. Does Ianthe know where her sister is and what her sister is doing?
Oh, she has to.
I think she has to, too. I think that they both literally interfaced with BOE before they got on Erebos. And yeah, all of this is fucking fascinating.
Oh, because that's why Corona goes to see God about a queen. No? What is it?
Yes, it's Ianthe who says that, but that's exactly right. I'm going to see So the other thing that's interesting is Cam's letter. So Cam reports back that it's about, I owe you fealty or I owe you a favor, whatever. But there's definitely more than that in Cam's letter. And the reason you know that is because when Harrow looks at Judith, one of the things Camilla tells her to stop fucking with them. And Camilla says, I already told them not to. Which means that something in the letter basically said, please do not talk to me about what happened at Canaan House. Please do not let anyone else talk to me about what happened at Canaan House. So I really would be interested to know what the full details of Camilla's letter are. And then finally, we know that Mercy is off interfacing with BOE separately. My question is, does she know about this encounter between Camilla, Corona, Judith, and Harrow or not? I don't think she does.
There's no way that she would be okay with it.
Right. Yes, exactly. She would not. But she's definitely off, also separately interfacing with a different faction of BOE.
But also, I feel like this is also a shuttle. So this could be a shuttle from a larger ship.
Yes. I'm with you 100%. This is not a fucking interstellar space travel. The other thing, this is just like small, but I think it's interesting. In terms of revenants, Harrow says that she cannot imagine the type of mind that could hold on as a ghost that long. Palamedes says he can, and it scares him. And when I first read that, it felt like it was about Wake, just like in terms of vibes, the kind of person who would hold on forever. But obviously Pal is like this too. And also Dr. Sex is like this too. Yeah, exactly.
He's seen it before. He planned for it, and he's been it.
Yes. And I like that they all hold on for different reasons, right? Like Dr. Sex holds on because of passion and scholarship and stubbornness. Pal holds on with will and patience and I think love for Cam. And Wake holds on with straight up spite, like nothing else.
Nothing else, yep.
This is a small thing, but I think it's like a nice little tell. Palamides also says, tell me you did it correctly, and then describes how Harrow was the only one who was close to understanding what he was trying to work out at Canaan House. And that parallels so nicely what you and I think happened with Anastasia and Cassie.
Right? 6th and 9th.
Yeah. Harrow asks Cam what Cam could have hoped to do against her as a lictor. Cam says nothing.
Yet.
It's a weird fucking line, and it is quite clear.
I think maybe it is a hope that she can get to Palamides and they can figure out perfect lictorhood.
Yeah.
Or that he can figure out a way, that he can figure out the path. Because she has perfect faith in him. Like, there is a reason why there is that Mary Magdalene quote in this chapter.
Yeah. Oof. But also, actually, if you treat it that way, it makes it a little bit sadder for me, a little bit less of a perfect partnership, because it is about subservience at that point. It is about treating the other person as more important, which is an interesting, I think, commentary on love, on the ways in which we sacrifice ourselves for the person that we love and the ways in which that's damaging or positive. So, I mean, we will have this conversation later, but Tamsin plays both sides. Tamsin both is like, it's definitely codependent. And then also, it is worth it. It's always like the right choice because, in fact, Palamides is still alive. Gideon is still alive.
We weren't going to have this conversation, but I am going to because it does.
Do it.
So you said, oh, that makes me a little bit sad because it implies that Palamides is more important. And I would argue that from the perspective of somebody who tries to like kind of think through and be Christian, like truly. Like the things that Palamides needs to do and the things that Palamides can do and the power that he has and the knowledge that he has makes him important, but he himself has no more worth than Cam.
I like that. I like that a lot.
So therefore, he is not more important than Cam.
Yeah.
It is like the dissonance and the parallel that you are supposed to get to in Christianity. And that was the point of believing in a God that becomes human, right?
Yeah. I love the idea that there's what you can do and what you can accomplish, and maybe not everybody has that. But in terms of like value of a person is always a person, and a person always has value. Mm-hmm. And certainly in this partnership from the outside, I mean, we talked about this a lot during our Dr. Sex episode. From the outside, everybody sees Pal as the one who's in charge. And Pal has so much respect for Cam. And Cam is so fucking wicked smart. She's so sharp. And she's also, I mean, she can do all sorts of things that he can't. It actually really matters that she has her like swordsmanship.
Yeah. I also think it's funny because I think that you're wearing me down.
Chapter 35, Broken Ninth House Skull. Cannon House gets cold and gooey. Teacher goes mad?
Chapter 36, Herald Skull. 1 week before the Emperor's murder. The resurrection beast draws near. Mercy draws a squiggle. The body departs. Chapter 37, Ninth House Skull. Who was Annabelle Lee? You tell God of the unlocked tomb.
Brooke thinks that the body is AL. That's correct. And John is still on his God lictored death, or God lictored the devil, which I think is really interesting. They also are on this chaotic run of AL being associated with the resurrection beast, maybe by lictoring it or something. John said directly, is he a turbo lictor about Jod? And I think that that's really interesting. So this is something I have down here under Jod's lictordom and powers, right? In theory, they lock him away because they think his necromancy would fail with his soul in the river. Later, if memory serves, he explicitly says that he's always just let them think that this is true and it's not actually true, which is something that Brooke clocked. She said, I think he's not giving a true answer. It doesn't quite make sense. And I think she's right. It doesn't make sense. I also think that you and I do not yet quite understand his powers, quite understand his format of lictordom. As far as I know, we never see him go just soul into the river. We've seen him go bodily into the river, which doesn't engender cavalier shit happening. I literally don't know what happens if you put Jod's soul into the river.
I feel like there's a handful of things going on here. 1, the lictors know what Electo is.
Right, that's referenced, right? Question mark? But they don't know that Electo was his cavalier. They know that Alecto was his bodyguard, but that's like part of why they freak the fuck out when they understand the eye exchange thing. They finally understand that it's a cavalier situation, not just two independent people.
But I think they've always suspected. They've always suspected, because why would they start the lictor process unless they understood? No, I guess they could just be like, oh, we're just looking for a way to have what you have, to have a source of power.
Yeah, and they start measuring what it does to exchange souls and things like that. Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know how much he coached them during that, trying to figure out the lictor process, if he was sending them in one direction or another. Right. One of the things also actually that Brooke and John said that feeds into another thing that I really want to talk about today. They mention that if it's true that if God is impaired, Dominicus goes out, then the responsible thing that a non-selfish person would do is to move the 9 houses off of the 9 houses planets and instead to some sort of planet or solar system where there are habitable planets, which we already know exist, right? Harrow just killed one last episode. And that part of the reason he maybe doesn't do this is because he likes that they are dependent on him.
Well, if you did that, you would not have necromancers.
You'd lose necromancy, but also who cares, right? So he's like willing to put exactly. So like I wrote this whole thing in my phone while they're talking about how classic. I so think Jod is this interesting character. It's a really classic form of abuse and form of abusive relationship, actually, to be very generous and loving until you suspect that the other person is not subservient to you, and then you turn on a dime and become cold and vicious and like...
Well, and they're going to see that. It's terrifying.
Yes, it's deeply frightening, but it also, I think that like we should not dismiss how it feels, for instance, for Harrow to feel loved by this person that she desperately loves. So actually, one thing we didn't talk about last episode, but from those last chapters, Harrow talks about how your love for God was akin to your love for the beautiful riverbed edge of the Iliac crest. Your love for God was like those moments of reprieve immediately after waking when you were not sure who you were. Those moments of living in another Harrow's skin, a Harrow who understood everything with a purity of completeness. It was a relief to worship thus. So it is this, again, abusive relationship where I think her love for Jod is pure. And I think in these moments when Jod says things like he wishes she were his daughter, he thinks that he means them. It's this, he has genuine care and love for these people until the second they burn him. And that's the thing, is that he likes them to be subservient. He likes everyone to be subservient, and he sees them that way. So when he's talking about Alecto in this one, he talks about her, she was my Adam. Yes. So like he sees it as ownership and he wants it to be ownership. And that's also like clear in some of the things he says. He says, I was a landlord with no tenants. And I'm like, bro, your best version of yourself is you want to be a landlord where everyone's paying you rent. Like he's not doing this out of the good of his heart ever. And I think exactly the same thing where like you could potentially move your people into a safer circumstance where Dominicus could never fail, but he's unwilling to do that because his best version is that he is God. You know what I mean?
We were talking last episode, deep things that I wasn't necessarily going to keep in, that I don't think that I kept in.
Yeah.
About how your own experiences really color the way that you see things. And my experiences and the way that I think about parenting color the way that I think about how Jod goes about this, which is that one of the things that, and it very much was taught to me as an attitude by my own mother, which is the attitude that most people have of their children as extensions of themselves and possessions, and not actually truly other people. They do not see their children as people, and then they are shocked when their children grow up and want nothing to do with them because they have never treated their children as people, and so there is nothing there. But it truly is this strange abusive thing, and it's how Jod reads to me.
Yes,
it is so fascinating, and it is so interesting, and it's like honestly so difficult, like, because it happens really early. It's like the first moment when your children, like, that's why I always said like 3 is awful, because 3 is like the first moment that you realize, like, up until that moment, your child does not understand themselves that they are not you. And then once they do, you both have to realize they are another person.
Yeah, so you both have to come to terms with it, and it's how you come to terms with it. And Jod is the kind of person who comes to terms with it and immediately, with negation, with anger, like, no, I refuse for it to be this way, as opposed to like looking inward and saying, holy shit, I have been misunderstanding this situation the whole time.
Well, and I mean, it's very easy. Like, when you have that much power, and you do have an incredible amount of power as a parent.
Yes.
You can just go along the entire time as though they are extensions, and they are you, and they are possessions. Up into a certain point, and then you're always going to have the problem, and then it's like, well, they're always disrespecting me, they're always disobeying me, they're always doing these things, they're terrible, terrible children. And it's like, no, you do not understand that they are people.
They are humans, they have agency.
And that is how he almost sees Harrow as well. He sees Harrow not that he wants her as a daughter. He sees Harrow as he wants her as a possession, as something that he could claim, that he could claim her power, that he could claim her brilliance, that he could claim her necromantic ability, that he could claim her as an extension of him.
Yes, 100%. That is unbelievably insidious. It is fucked up. It is dark. It is dehumanizing. And also, in his inability to recognize that that's what he's doing, he is quite gentle with her. And he does. So for instance, he says afterwards as she's running out of the room, like, oh, you know, John, like, you haven't learned after 10,000 years. Like, he wants to be better in certain ways, and he never will be. He's not willing to make the sacrifice that is needed to let go and allow someone to be their own person. Harrow loves him with a true purity of love. And I just want to say that that's normal, that I get it. It's the wrong person to love. He's not worthy of their love, but I understand it because it is this like father figure, and it is someone who sees you and values you enormously. And it takes a long time to realize that the reason they are valuing you is because you're useful to them, as opposed to because they actually see merit in you. It's tragic, and it's beautiful. Okay. All right. We got to move on. I just want to like take a moment to talk about the river. We have a bunch of things in here on stomas. We both forgot to put in how fucking weird the riverbank is. How fucking weird is the riverbank? It has stones. It has some sort of like reedy, like ferny plants. It has a bank. Where are you when you're on the bank of the river? I would have thought that you're like dropping out of reality and then you are in the river. But there is a bank. I have no follow-up to this. I think it's just a weird circumstance.
But I think you have to have a bank in order to talk about like what Abigail talks about, which is you can cross the river. The river has another side. We have only ever been on one bank of the river. What is the other bank?
The other side being beyond the stoma, but you're saying that the other side is actually the bounds of the river even above the water, that there are multiple sides and there's also an up-down.
Like, you are only come to this bank of the river.
Yeah.
No, I think when Abigail says that things are crossing, or she has sent them beyond, she's not sending them down to the stoma.
Interesting.
She's sending them across the river to the other bank.
Which also makes me wonder, I mean, so again, if we're going to go, Tamsin loves the Greek and Roman mythology. So like Charon, or, you know, like the river Styx, there's a boatman. Well, okay, so this says, basically we're talking now about a river with two banks that you can go across. And additionally at the base, a depth and these holes that cross over into a different space that they use as trash space. But I don't know if trash is a reasonable...
Just because you use it as a trash bin doesn't mean that it actually is a trash bin.
That's right. The eighth house sucks at them like a teat, so potentially that this is also like a source of power and vacuum. But I don't think I understand it.
I also know that ghosts don't go down towards the stoma, and ghosts flee the RB.
I love this connection. This was such an interesting thing to pick up on. Yeah, is there some crossover reason, something that is true about both these places and both of these meanings?
Just a note.
Yeah. So actually, let's go ahead and talk about the RBs, because you did a really beautiful job here doing some Resurrection Beast accounting. So the question is, which Resurrection Beasts are which and which ones are left?
Okay, so in Chapter 2, Jod tells Harrow that there were 9, they killed 5, and 3 are left.
Which is bad math.
And so then in these chapters, we get the descriptions of a lot of them. And so I've put the descriptions where I think they might go. So we'll see if you agree with me.
Yeah.
So I think, so if we go by planets, Mercury is probably number 2, which spewed quicksilver and remade itself into 100-foot spikes.
I love her descriptions.
And in chapter 2, Jod says that fell soon after the resurrection. Venus is probably number 4, which was a humanoid creature with a beautiful face who held me under the water, and it spoke in a lovely voice, but it only repeated, die, die.
Yes, I feel that's very, very Venus, and they do not mention it being dead, so maybe it's one of the 3 that remain.
I don't think so, because I think the ones that are described are the ones they've pushed.
Have actually killed.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I'm fine with that.
Because it leaves 3 left that haven't been described.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. Mars, I think, is the first one, which makes sense to me.
It was the first one we think that he killed. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. It's literally the closest one to Earth. Go on.
Yeah. And I think they're numbered in counter. And so I think it makes sense that that Mars is the first one that came back, because Mars is probably the planet that had the most human activity after Earth in the solar system. So it says, I recall it as a great and incoherent machine. When I saw it, I thought it had a great tail and 1,000 broken pillars on its back, but Cassiopeia saw it as a mechanical monster with swords for wings and great horns of myelin, tessellated over with graves.
Can I say something that I find really interesting? So these depictions, of course, things that you're seeing and encountering in the river maybe reflect more back at you than they do in terms of like existing in themselves. So all of these things we're connecting because of our human understandings of what Venus is and means, what Mars is and means, this war planet, for instance. And I think that's really interesting. It's not the form, it's not a real form. It's not a form that Mars, the planet, had. It's what you as humans have like pushed and foisted upon it in terms of meaning. You're fighting something that's informed by your own understanding.
Jupiter is number 8, was a giant head, finned like a fish. Its ribs were bloody bandages, and its teeth protruded through its own skull, tangled about its face like a nest. It was red, and it had a single eye of green that moved all about the body.
Got it. That's why you're getting Jupiter.
Cost a man's immortal soul, because, and I think that's the one that Ulysses wrestled through the stoma. Saturn, I think, is one of the ones that's left that we don't have a description of.
Great.
Uranus, I think, is the one that kept sucking us into enormous sphincters and spraying us with worms.
Ick and or ew.
Cyrus drew it into a supermassive black hole. Number 7, who Cassie tried to pull into the river and died for, and they haven't managed to kill it yet. So it's another, that's the second one that they haven't managed. And then Pluto. So I think the 3 that are left are Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, and then of course Earth.
Can we jump really briefly to, I have rampant Cassie speculation.
Yes.
So I still think that Cassie is not dead. And now that you have brought up both riverbanks, I think Cassie is on the other side.
Oh, I love that, because I've been with you. I don't know how we would square this.
Yes.
Now that we say that she fought number 7, we didn't kill number 7, we didn't even wrestle number 7 down.
Yes. So you even could have ridden it.
She hid in the screaming ghosts and went to the other side.
Yes. And there's this big discrepancy. So she's apparently torn apart by hungry ghosts after trying to like drag this in. Why the fuck would there be ghosts there? There's a resurrection beast there. Ghosts hate resurrection beasts. There's a part of me that also wonders, she actually like touched and interacted with number 7. There's a part of me that wonders if Cassie actually has a connection to this resurrection beast and to resurrection beasts in general. There's nothing, it's just weird. It's, the rampant speculation. I think the last things that I wanted to say were in the Canaan House bubble just a little bit. I think it's hilarious that even after learning about Palamides' bubble, our newbies have not actually made that connection yet, which is unusual for them. They're usually on that shit. So, we have fooled them for a whole other week.
Especially the things that teacher said, I didn't totally catch them, but the ones that you wrote down, he is telling them. Teacher is telling them without telling them what is going on. That it is a bubble, that Harrow has rules, and that Sleeper is not part of the rules. That Sleeper is something else, and there is no fucking thing that they could possibly do because it will not obey the rules because it is not part of the bubble.
He says what will later be true. He says your weapons literally will not rend its flesh. It will not respond to the blades within, which is all we have. We only have things that work in this world, and it is not of this world. I think that's exactly right. And there are other things here that I think should give a little bit of a hint about the fact that something about this is off. Dulcie is not dying. And in fact, Dulcie is not dying partially because she's reinforcing her own rules that she always believed that if you thought hard enough,
you just get better.
I also really like Abigail can always tell when Harrow is lurking and says that it's because they're used to the fourth house eavesdropping, but Harrow's a fucking silent. Yeah, there's a part of me that's like, no, it's just that Abigail basically only turns on even potentially when Harrow is there, right? Like,
right.
They're skipping time between that. All the people in the bubble think it's been a much shorter amount of time because they're not doing things when Harrow is not in it.
They are only in the bubble when Harrow is sleeping, and Harrow is not sleeping.
Oh, yeah. I also wanted to say with the organs, which are newbies 100% clocked. So literally every single time I've read Harrow, I think I've just skimmed across this and been like, generic 2B organs. And I have never bothered to actually look at the details. So I never bothered to look up the word fimbriae, which is very much about an ovary, and I never bothered to pay attention to the description. So my favorite was actually they would pouch out with whitish pearl bubbled globules secreted away within their flesh. And if you've ever dissected out a mouse ovary, this is exactly what it looks like. So again, I was like, God damn it,
the
Hannah.
The thing moving through tubes is sperm. The fimbriae
I was like, you dumb
the
fuck.
fallopian tubes.
Because you have been telling me this over and over, and I was like, I don't know. I think they're just generic bad river shit.
Like, having that imagery on your mind, like, actually makes it, to me, even more disgusting. This is also TMI that I'm going to
go for it, because I'm about to give TMI.
I'm going to have to edit out. Fuck you, Tamsin.
Oh my God. That's so funny. So this is, okay, so one thing I was thinking about, part of the reason that I didn't clock this as, oh, this is uterus ovary shit, oh, these needles and syringes are related to IVF, was because I don't understand why Wake, who's not a person who cares about having kids, who's a person who's driven mostly by spite for the Emperor, why this is a thing that's haunting her. And you think about it. What?
Because it's deeply fucking traumatic.
That's right. That's fucking dead on. This person, Wake, just had this horrible trauma alone while being pursued by enemies and then died, right? Like, that is like, of course, that's crystallized as like the last intense thought, the last biggest thing that's haunting her, Wake, that is now haunting Harrow.
Yeah.
It was pretty wild to like read that and kind of think about it. Well, let's talk about something fun for our last thing. Abigail is talking to Ortis about, it's this very funny moment actually, where Abigail is like, Ortis, my friend, my love, I can't call back your grandmother who touched part of a sword for maybe 5 seconds, however long ago. It's not going to happen. And then says, we've got a similar chance of Magnus tripping over the secret entrance to the lost chambers of the Emperor Undying. Actually, that's significantly less unlikely, as I've come to believe they run sidelong to the facility rather than never mind.
Abigail, come on, man.
Sidelong.
Come on, man.
She loves the break off in mid, and suddenly someone barges through the door. There's not time to talk about it. But I think sidelong to the facility is really interesting. So we've talked about Canaan House as being potentially partially or wholly or mixedly subsumed in the river in order to keep it pure and outside of time. But what are these sidelong chambers? This is not the facility with its tests. This is not the Lichter labs. Is it possible the Mithraeum is tethered to Canaan House, or that there is some other set of chambers that are essential to the Emperor that we literally have not encountered yet?
I'm just going to say that this is part of my my favorite spoiler theory, which is that Canaan House is partially tethered to the river, and now that Abigail is in the river, she can feel Canaan House. She can feel the real Canaan House. And so she thinks that that is what is running sidelong.
Okay.
So other river pieces of the facility.
Yeah. But I still just wonder, what they are. Is she just referring broadly to Canaan House as we know it from the first book, which is tethered in the river? Or, over and over in Gideon the Ninth, they talk about how much bigger Canaan House is than what they have access to. We love a secret door.
Big fans of a door.
Chapter 38, 7th House Skull. Zombie under the bed. Ianthe sees nothing. The Saint of Duty pulled too many punches. Chapter 39, B Skull. The heralds arrive.
Epiperidos, third house skull. 9 months and 29 days before the emperor's murder. Harrow Nonagesimus and Ianthe Tridentarius, brain surgeons.
I kind of brought it up because I really didn't think it was spoilers, but I think that you have more to say about the body with Cytherea, because I really don't know what to think, because on the one hand, I think it was there because of Harrow's reaction to feeling Jod's magic, but then, and I think that Ianthe's reaction is that Ianthe is fucking with her. I just get the vibe that Ianthe is messing with her. But then the bone cuffs make me think it wasn't there.
No, I know. So this is, I wanted to, the thing that I couldn't say in front of them was that later Gideon will confront Ianthe about this. Gideon thinks that Ianthe saw Cytherea's body and gaslighted Harrow. And that's said explicitly in a couple chapters. So
but also,
Gideon
only
clearly
has Harrow's
information. That's right. But so like whether or not she thinks, but so Gideon thinks it's real is the point. And like, it's unclear to me whether or not Ianthe thinks it's real. However, if Ianthe, right. But if Ianthe had been like looking under the bed, she would have said something about the bone cuffs. There was something to see there, even if there was no body, because Harrow literally had made a physical thing to attach, Cytherea's body to the floor. And instead, Ianthe says specifically, I can't see anything. So I think the only explanation.
What am I looking at?
She starts with, what am I looking at? But she says, I can't see anything. Hold on, let me find it. It says, Ianthe sat up and brushed down her knees. She looked at you with an expression you could not parse in the diminished light, only it had been made with great care. And she said, I can't see anything, Harrow Hark. So I think the only way to read it is that Ianthe is fucking with her, but I don't know why. I don't know to what end. It doesn't make sense to me. And it still doesn't make sense to me how this body disappears and leaves the bone cuffs behind. Like, one possibility could have been that Ianthe literally moved the body while Harrow's in the bathroom and then remade the bone cuffs, but I don't think she'd be good at that. And I think Brooke's point was well made. What the fuck is the point of this entire sequence? Like, what do we learn from this? What does this change about our understanding of what's going on? And for me, if God is not lying and truly cannot sense the body on the station, that makes me wonder if Harrow's wards are somehow so good that if you're in Harrow's room, it's insensate. You can't actually access or understand it.
But nobody can. And that's the weird thing, is it shouldn't have access to necromancy.
No, it shouldn't. Yeah, I completely agree. It literally should just be a body inhabited by an invasive soul. It's some weird shit. This is, I think, a hard one to tear apart.
I really don't understand.
Yeah.
I guess the second thing is it's pretty much confirmed later on by Jod that the whole thing about attacking Harrow is commanded by Jod.
That's right. I want to give a shout out to Brooke, who actually in the course of the last section said, could it be God's idea? And then immediately dismissed it. So, almost good, Brooke.
Close.
But I also wanted to mention something. So I'm very behind on fan theories, but we had a fan, Rachel, write in a while ago about how potentially the greater power that Gideon is serving, because Jod says that he's serving a power even greater than the Emperor, is Pyrrha, that Pyrrha made Gideon promise to protect John when she died and made him a lictor. So that's Rachel's theory, and I think that's interesting. But we also know explicitly that it's Jod who set up the whole murder shenanigans. I think Jod is just a practiced liar. I think it's that straightforward.
I think so. And I like that we have our Gideon callback here is, you were always such a little bitch when you were angry.
It's a very, very Gideon poking through moment and a very beautiful callback. There's actually a number of tiny little moments here that I think are wonderful. So one that I noted, it's a stupid detail, but I love it. So in the Epiperidos, Ianthe says, but Sextus's head exploded, proving to the world that he hadn't accounted for everything, which is classic dramatic irony. He had actively accounted for this.
Yep, he did actually account for that. Yep. And I did call this out because they pointed it out, and then I got to point it out to them, where I love that Harrow calls out exactly how stupid and arrogant Jod is for making
I love that John caught this.
For his super secret tomb.
I loved that John caught this. I thought this was amazing. And it is completely fucking accurate. It's not only arrogant, it's stupid. It's poor planning. In terms of Ianthe and Corona's plans and what she means here in See a Man About a Queen, we've had multiple fans. So we've had Evan T, Joe F, and Bethany C have all written in that they think that Ianthe and Corona's plan is to make Corona a necromancer in some way. And I think this is interesting, but I like increasingly my understanding, the more I look at the little tiny pieces, is that Corona is the one in charge, actually. It's not Ianthe. Ianthe is working towards carrying out a plan that, yes, is both of their plans, but is largely Corona's plan. I actually think that she is the big bad in this. So I don't think it's about trying to make Corona something she's not. I think it is about uplifting Corona as she is. And I could see trying to make Corona the emperor. Like, that makes some weird sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know that it would be to make Corona a necromancer, because she doesn't need to be to have the power that she does.
I think that's right. But I also think it's still a really, really interesting question. Is like, how do you give necromancy to everyone? And is that part of what they are trying to do? And so in the context of Ianthe saying this, saying, I'm going to go see a man about a queen, it's weird. It is on Erebos, right? So the only people she could go see are ostensibly in the cohort or Jod. So I just don't know who she's interfacing with, because there's something more interesting if she's interfacing with Blood of Eden. But our understanding of the timeline is that this has to have happened after Harrow talks to Jod the first time, which is at the very end of Gideon the First in the epilogue, which means they are already on a spaceship. They're already on the Erebos. So I have no idea who she's talking to or what her goal is, but it's such a fucking interesting line.
And it's funny that you say that, because I always forget that it's on the Erebos and that it's not on the Mithraeum yet. And so the options to me were always Jod or Augustine. And so I was always just thinking that she's going to go talk to Jod. But actually, it opens it up if what she's going to do is she's going to go talk to somebody in the cohort. And
that's
what she's doing is machinations against Jod.
I'm also gonna forward to Frontline Fifth a piece of merch that our merch queen made, ironically, that just says, I went to the Erebos and all I got was this lousy lobotomy.
That might be my first purchase. And I will wear it and nobody will know what I'm talking about. But when I do wear it, there's no way that you could see somebody wearing that they wouldn't talk to you about it. So I will find my people when I wear it.
Right. People either will avoid you or they'll be like, I need to know more. I must know more.
Oh my God. I am so excited.
Okay. All right. Maybe we'll have to actually make Sonia adjust that so we can actually, because she sent it to me as a joke. She's
no, we have to, I have to have that. I have not yet bought anything from the store. That is my first purchase.
So yesterday I went out to a beer garden with John and some of our friends. And then I also went over to a friend's house for a party. And I came this close to wearing the sexiest bone dress. And then I was like, I actually don't know if Josh would be okay with me out in public as we go on our historical tour of the Russell House in the sexiest bone coccyx covered dress.
Come on, man.
I'm sure you guys should have done it. Everyone would have loved it. It's talk about a conversation starter.
It's subtle.
Chapter 40, Broken Ninth House Skull. Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark as to the timeline. Harrow Nova. Cavalier.
Chapter 41, Broken Fifth House Skull. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Before? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Harrow Hark isn't good at parties.
Chapter 42, Partially Broken Fourth House Skull. Month? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Death? Lieutenant Reverend Daughter takes her coffee black.
Chapter 43, Broken Sunglasses Skull. One night before the Emperor's murder. Harrow remembers Gideon, an invasive soul in a river bubble. It's delightful to me that they have Kithurea's soul in the mix as a possible thing, because what they don't realize is that Kithurea's body is now just a shell, the same way the sword was a shell, to carry Commander Wake. And Commander Wake is in just too many places at once. So actually, that's one of the things that I wanted to mention. We know that the Canaan House stage only exists when Harrow is unconscious. And I think part of the reason that the timelines are so dramatically off is that she's not there every time she's unconscious. We know that because she regularly dreams about the body.
But also, she's not there every time she's unconscious, but also she doesn't sleep.
Yeah, this is true. She rarely sleeps. We have whole sections where she's sleeping almost not at all. But additionally, she regularly dreams of the body. So I think, some of this discrepancy is there. However, I think it's interesting that Harrow can only think or be active in one place at a time. Either she can be in the Canaan House river bubble or she can be on the Mithraeum. But Wake's soul can be active in multiple places. She's about to be the sleeper in a huge fight at the same time as she's having an in-depth conversation with Jod. And I don't know what that means. Like maybe when your soul is dissociated from your body, you can split more effectively. And it's that straightforward.
Yeah, I don't know what it means about Wake's soul. Like, Wake is just weird, and I don't take her metaphysical properties as
normal or as
right. Canon.
You can't infer anything from that necessarily. No. Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't because of that specifically, because it's like everybody else has to be in certain places at certain times. And it seems like because she's in Kithurea's body, but she's also haunting Harrow. Yeah. So it seems like she has split herself.
Right. I completely agree. And okay, so another thing in terms of...
Oh. Maybe it's that haunting is different than actually physically being somewhere.
What does that mean, though?
Like...
that your consciousness can be kind of doing multiple things at once as long as they're not the same type of thing. But Harrow can't do that.
Your soul could be physically somewhere, but your consciousness might be doing something.
Yeah, it's just that it doesn't work for Harrow that way. Or maybe
it's because her soul isn't attached to anything that she can do that.
I think that's why. I think it's that there's no like tethering point for her soul. So it's, yeah, and anyway, we don't know. But it's interesting. It's weird. Weird soul theory. Okay, so in terms of other people being where they should not be, I recognize this time. I've never noticed this before, but now it's bothering me on a fundamental level. Crux and Iglamine show up very thoroughly in these alternate universes. Like they are not background characters, they are speaking. And one way is to very easily dismiss this as like Harrow has known these people from birth. She totally understands them. It's much easier for her to create accurate constructs of them. But every time I dismiss shit as just being psychology, it comes back to bite me in the ass. So there's this part of me that's like, are Crux and Iglamine like part dead? How, like, is there some seepage?
I think that she is temporarily, like, I think that they are asleep.
Okay, I like that she's literally pulled their living souls into these brief moments of these alternate universes.
Yeah.
Because they're acting with agency and they're acting in ways that I feel like Harrow would not act. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. I just had this moment where I was like, have they been dead this whole time? Like, Sixth Sense, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I like the idea of pulling in their living souls. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is, of course, how much I love that Harrow's brain has one version with Gideon as the princess of the empire, as the, like, her Reverend Highness or whatever.
Interesting. I thought, like, I know that was kind of funny. I was like, be cool, be cool, be cool, when Brooke was like spending so much time on that, and I was like...
But it also cracked me up. I was like, Brooke, it's definitely Gideon. Like, obviously, these people are... Anyway, all right, what else? Because you've got a couple of things here that I think are interesting.
Well, so the first thing is, I kind of forgot, but I love that Harrow, like, just straight out lays it out, that she is doing the exact opposite of the eightfold word. She is directly undoing two of the steps, because two of the steps are to understand the soul. And so, and connect it and like plug it in or whatever. So she's unplugging and she is making sure that she cannot comprehend Gideon's soul.
I love
in an effort to not absorb it. And that is that's the only way that she can possibly think to not finish the process.
It's cool as this reverse engineering of the eightfold word.
Yeah, is to like literally stop two of the pieces of the eightfold word. Like there's 8 pieces. So if you like undo or like kind of pause 2 of the pieces in the download, then we're kind of in this limbo, right?
Yeah. Actually, let's bring up something. So something our newbie said that I had never considered. Do you have thoughts about why it's at this moment that Harrow finally remembers Gideon and that Gideon finally emerges in Harrow's unconscious body?
I think it is just like the body stress. And I think that she's been in the bubble and the bubble is starting to like have enough stress on it that the AUs are the rules starting to shift. Like, I think it's becoming unstable.
And it's kind of destabilizing her whole disconnect from Gideon that she engineered. Yeah, it's interesting.
I think that it could only stay for so long.
Yeah.
Maybe this was why, because you have to remember, at the very beginning, her very first rule for herself was stay alive.
Yes.
Because I think that she knew that if she got stressed too much, the pulling on that lictoral well would destabilize this too much.
It would pull Gideon all the way in. I like that a lot. So this is maybe, in fact, Jod and Giddy One's plan would have worked if she had ever made it close enough to actually dying.
Yes.
But this is the first time she actually makes it to a point where it's like, oh no, I think this might be it.
Yeah, and I think that that's why the AUs are happening, right? Is like the bubble is destabilizing, and so it is her brain trying to remember Gideon in these weird ways until she finally does.
Good. I love it.
There's also this like continual allusion to 9 months, but also very clearly that the lobotomy happens 9 months and 29 days. And I was like, that's not like 9 months. That's 9
right.
months and 29 days. And then I remembered that we always say that pregnancy is 9 months, but we also say that pregnancy is 40 weeks. And it's because it's
I don't understand.
It's because,
I understand pregnancy is counted weirdly. It's counted from 2 weeks before conception, which is really fucking bizarre.
It's because you can't know when conception happens,
right.
So it's counted from your last period.
Right. But so there's an extra 2 weeks that's always added on.
But that's why it's 40 weeks. And so that's why this is still a pregnancy illusion.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting because it's basically Harrow and Wake. Like, Wake carried Gideon for 9 months. Harrow has carried Wake and Gideon for 9 months.
And now everyone's emerging.
And that's why I thought it was so funny, because I was like, 9 months and 29 days. Like, that doesn't work with pregnancy. But it actually does, because pregnancy is counted weird.
Yeah. That's fabulous. Well, speaking of like, so I love that as an illusion. I love that in the background. And I actually really loved, I had not picked up on the cuckoo illusion that our newbies went with, but that is an interesting one too. This idea of supplanting and then growing.
Yeah. Well, and it's even funnier because they went on and on and on about it. And I like, even as they were talking, it's not until like you said it again just now that I was like, oh no, she absolutely is a cuckoo. It's so funny that Harrow calls her that, because she is.
Very funny.
Damn. I think it was Brooke said, can you only be haunted? I don't know who said it. Can you only be haunted by one thing? Specifically because...
That's right, because John is convinced that the body going away and then seeing Cytherea, that's an exchange.
And the thing is that you can be haunted by more than one thing, because Harrow is haunted by so many things. Harrow is haunted by the 200 babies. Harrow is haunted by Wake. Harrow is haunted by the body. And so, yes, you can be haunted by more than one thing.
I think that's right. Yeah. So I think it doesn't have to do with any of the other hauntings, but I agree. Harrow is the most haunted person alive.
It also, I think that we've brought this up before, but it keeps coming up just in kind of like sideways little things in both, like, I think TikTok theories and in like the Reddit theories, that Harrow is essentially, because of the 200 ghosts, she is essentially a resurrection beast.
Interesting. She like has effectively consumed all of these other living spirits that are giving her energy and power.
And rage.
Or alternatively, you could see it as like the collective death of a community all at once, which is kind of the point of these planetary revenants. It's a community death. Yeah.
But also, she has the vengeance and rage.
Oh, yeah. They were talking about which one's the angry spirit. And because Wake in this case is our angry spirit, but like Electo also, by definition, besetting sin is rage.
Yep. So I thought that I would drop that in the bucket for something to think about.